here with Nate McDaniels from Ohlm, and you're with Joe Grudge also, correct?
Yes, I am. I just picked up with them about a year ago.
Okay. How did that come about?
Well, Josh from Ohm plays drums in Joe Grudge, and well, everybody in Joe Grudge. I had just met the bass player, Brutal Brian. We call him Brutal, but I had just met him. But everybody else in Joe Grudge, Stone, the guitar player, and Cooper, the singer, and Josh. I've known them for, I mean, decades. We go back as kids, you know.
Yeah.
So it was. They had a guy that kind of he had some personal stuff come up, and he had to bail pretty quick on him. They had a few shows, so at first it was pretty much, you know, a fill-in thing, and then after a minute, he was like, "I kind of need to bow out," and I just kind of stayed, you know.
Right on. Well, I'm a longtime fan of Ohlm, so I'm gonna ask questions about that. How did how did Ohlm start?
Well, me and Josh had been playing in a band for a while called Antikythera, uh, and I had left to do a couple things and had been replaced and all that, and we hadn't got to play music together in a while. And for years, we had talked about wanting to put together something where we didn't have to worry about a singer, and we just kind of like come to like fruition. Like one day, you know, I we were talking like, hey, let's go get some Mexican. I think is what it was. And we went and had a couple margaritas and got like some, you know, nachos or something. We was just talking about catching up and stuff. And I asked him, I was like, would you ever be interested in jamming together again, maybe doing some of that instrumental stuff, you know, nothing serious, because he was still doing Anicathera at the time, and I was in another band trying to relive my glam days back then. like, so it just that eventually he was like, yeah, let's jam, and we didn't have a bass player, and something happened with Anicathera uh, that were like Timmy, who's in Hot Action Cop. I don't know if you ever heard of that band,
Yeah.
but that as well. He's another friend of ours that goes way back. Something happened and he had to go out of town for his band Hot Action Cop, so I filled in for him in Antikythera, like doing my spot, like filling in for my spot, sort of in a
Yeah.
sense. Uh, then so we're on tour in Chicago, and we're on tour with this band called Sowing Discord, a really good death metal band from back in the day in the early Louisville days. I don't know if you'd ever heard the name,
Mm-mm.
but like we're sitting there and like, you know, talking to their bass player, and we were just kind of sitting there, and he was just like, yeah, I kind of would like to do something different too and everything. And we're sitting there with his bandmates and our bandmates sort of at the time, and like we're texting going like, hey man, maybe we should get this guy to play bass with Ohm. And he came over and started playing bass, and it turned into a real band actually. So that was like
Hell.
2000.
Oh shit. All right. So, and you guys have had the same lineup the entire time?
Yep, it's been the same. We've had a couple people come in and do additional things. Like we had Marissa play violin for a while. I don't know if you'd ever remember catching her, and she's on
Yeah.
like all albums except for the last one, Kolat Sakyal. She's not on that. Um, uh, Mainly because, you know, she had been she had COVID. It was had about, I guess, just right around kicked in, running all that. And she's got young kids, and it was just one of those things where it's like, honey, it's not worth it. You know, it's not the kids and stuff just to take the risk of being around it. And because we finished that album up, and but yeah, I mean, like, I mean that kind of we've had a few people try to come in and out, and it's hard because like as a three piece, we can really keep the nucleus of the writing together, and like we're all on a really same wavelength kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
We're like there's one, and it works sometimes. A lot of times, it shows up that the people come. Turns out that the people can't really be there as much as we, because we practice a lot and to play the stuff we play. You know, we have to kind of keep our chops up, and you have to have a good practice regimen. Plus, you don't want to write some big elaborate part, which we've had happen. There's like, you know, our second album, there's a couple parts that have very elaborate violin segues, and we can't, you know, we can't do that live unless we sample it, and
Right.
that's real fun to be like hitting our guitar lick and have to like and then turn right back around. So
Yeah.
it's so we've gotten to the point now to where when we record albums, if we have to get somebody to come in and do something, even we kind of try to keep it to where it's something like if it ain't there live, it's not going to really hurt the you know, the impact of it's not going to be
Right.
bad.
Well, that's cool. I know I caught the not the last show. I caught the show at Headliners,
Oh, it was a
and
good
yeah.
fun show. We were very doubtful about that show.
Yeah. Well, when the first band took stage, I was kind of like,
Yeah, I mean, see, the thing was more than anything, I mean, all of the bands that played were really, really good. I wish I could remember how to say that first band's name. I never can remember it, but I do remember THP and Stone Holler. Um, uh, I mean, they were good bands. It was just a really weird mix when we got it pitched to us. Plus, it
Yeah.
was like kind of like, like, can we bring that crowd to headliners? Just us being headliners in a bill, because it's hard to sell an instrumental band. Uh, Luckily, I mean, we have enough people now. We've had Dennis Stein doing like live projections for us, which you've seen. Like that's all like
Yeah.
that's not something he's sitting there that's like he's hitting a play on. Like he's filming things and using effects and doing it on fly. He's pretty much like a part of the band almost.
That's cool.
And we can entertain like that on that level, and how we're seamless. We try, like that night we had a couple little gaps, but we try not to have the gaps, to keep the band or keep the crowd really motivated. But there was a few little things that night, but it happens. It was still a good show, I think.
It's a live show. It's you kind of expect it to happen, right?
Yeah, something's going to happen. If you don't think something's going to happen, I mean, probably something worse is going to happen.
Yeah.
But I like myself, be like, oh, it's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. I mean, shit's going to happen. I mean, in a nutshell, I mean, that's part of it to me, is like the adrenaline that you get, like the vibe, the excitement of it. I don't know if it's exactly the same as like, say, a dude's like on a motorcycle doing motocross or something, but I was like the adrenaline in the sense of like, oh man, that guy knows if he fucks up, it's over. I know if I fuck, I've got a delay pedal on, they're gonna hear it 20 damn times when I mess up. So
Yeah, but if you fuck up, you're not breaking a leg or dying or something like that, right?
I guess that's the stage thing, break a leg. Like that's what I.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, not bad. I thought it was a good show. Thanks for coming out, man.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I try to catch you guys every chance I get, and it's not as often as I want, because I mean, like lately, last few years, we've had so many fucking shows, and it's like,
A lot. People are making up for those 2 years.
yeah, for sure.
It's bad. I mean, that when we put out, it's called Dead Mountain. I'll just quit call that Xiao. We call the album that because it's like all based off the Dyatlov stuff from Russia. But when we put that album out, it hit right then. And like, it was just like, oh man, now everybody's doing these live streams. We can't really go out there and play live to promote this album. And it kind of sucked because we had gotten into a good studio. We'd started doing Dead Bird Studios with Dave Shell. And like our mixes had started getting better, like just everything had started getting honed. And that album came out really nice and shiny, and we couldn't even do nothing. It was like having a toy that you couldn't go and take out to your friends and it sucked.
Like,
Yeah.
got a motorcycle, no wheels. Fuck. Yeah. That sucks.
Yeah. I mean, it killed some motivation. I noticed that like in the last year, especially, that there are bands just like, and even we've been playing pretty frequently, but we try not to play home too much, but we've played a lot here lately in the last month. And actually, as of now, we're supposed to be taking a break, and the only show that we've actually got on schedule is in October right now.
Oh shit.
We're supposed to be mixing the rest of we got a new album, and it's done. It just needs mixed. And we're trying to get dates in to do that, which it's, we went to Deadbird again. He's in very high demand. He's one of the best studios around. I mean, everybody. I mean, if you're into any kind of other music locally, I mean, he's even into that. He's Prayer Line, Tyler Lance Walker Gill. If you're into any kind of like outlaw country stuff, I mean, anything. This guy's across the board, and it's a great studio. But we're just waiting to get some dates in there to mix it, and we'll have a 4-banger out for y'all. I mean,
Right.
but it's still 45 minutes long. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, it's totally opposite of like Grind, because Grind, you've got 40 songs and it's 22 minutes.
yeah, I mean, we tried the grind thing and it's real fun, but I mean, now I'm older and like it's hard on you, and it's hard on a drummer.
Mhm.
And really, I mean, like when we were doing the Chigger project, I mean, we were writing 2.5 minute long songs that were just burners, man. That just napalm death style, like tear it up, which we love. I love napalm. I love grind music, but I'm now that I'm older, like I listen back to that stuff. I'm like, can I do that? And I was like, I don't think I can do it.
Dude, it's so different when you get older. There's a grind band out of Australia that I like a lot. What in the hell are you doing, cat? Stop eating
And
my.
we've got this is Catopia here, so if you see them in the background, I feel you.
Well, no, she's over here chewing on my damn cables, and I'm like, stop that shit. She's like, pay attention to me. So this band, they're called King Parrot out of,
they love them.
dude, they are so fucking good.
Hilarious. Their videos, like somebody, I want to say Saul from man, I never can remember. How do you say his band's name now? His new band. Uh, I don't know how you pronounce it, but I know formerly artwork for the blind, and he was in Callus, and he's in Sugar. He's a
Oh,
singer.
dude, he's in, it's Cathode ULT.
That's it. Okay, okay, that's it. But him,
He
he
said,
introduced me a video of them,
yeah,
and I was losing. I was laughing my ass off, and then the music starts, and I'm like, "Oh Jesus," but they're awesome. Yeah. So, anyways,
dude,
you're saying,
they are the fucking real deal. First time I saw them, they were playing with, I gotta think, Devil Driver and Phil Anselmo and the Illegals.
wow. I think I heard about that show. I didn't get to go to that show. That would have been, yeah. I heard about that. I want to say, I want to see them, but I've yet to get to see them, man.
They'll be back. I think they'll be back next year.
I mean, they're hilarious. I love their music. I mean, I got into a band right around the same time as them. I don't know if you ever heard of Crack House.
Mm-mm.
Check out Crack House. Like they're pretty good. They've got a punkier vibe at times going, but man, I mean, it's like this very offensive, grindy, just like one of the songs is called "This Emergency Room is going to need a fucking emergency room." Shit, like it's just like straight mosh thrashy grind. But it's cool shit. I found about them at the same time. It was kind of cool because they both have this sort of funny side to things, and I like that about some grind bands is that they can be comical.
Yeah.
Napalm Death. I mean, I've loved them for years, and still there's shit about them that I just think is hilarious.
Hilarious. Yeah, there's another one out of Australia called Choof.
I've not heard them. I'll have to check
So
that out.
the Matt Young from King Parrot like turned me on to them, and I'm like, oh shit. So like I interviewed, I mean, I had Matt on, and then I had Jackson from Choof on a couple weeks ago. Like, good dudes. They're planning on being here next year too. And I'm like, all right, we got to figure out how to get those guys into Louisville.
Oh yeah, man. I would definitely be at that. Keep me in the loop on that. I mean, it's cool that there's bands like that out there that are still doing something that's not just. There seemed to be like a few years back a grind thing kind of started getting going
Mhm.
that just wasn't grind music embodying like what I thought of as grind. I understand that I'm a little older now. That whole generation scorning the next thing comes into play too. I understand now I'm older and that I do always say, "Oh, that shit sucks. This is how we used to do it."
It's
I do,
literally,
but
that's when you know you're fucking old. You're like, back in my day, like, ah, fuck.
it's all, and the crazy thing is it always ends up being a lot of shit talk too. It's like we're just like, "Oh, fuck that," like. But I mean, really, you sit back and you think about it, you're like, "Hey, man, that's kind of." I'm into a lot of things now as a guitar player that I would have just laughed at, in my 20s, mid 20s and stuff, and been like, "Oh, that's stupid. Why would you do it now?" I'm I'm older and I love stuff like that.
Yeah.
You change, but I don't want to. I mean, but back there was a few years back when there weren't a lot of grind bands, and then bam, here was a bunch of grind bands, and it just seemed like it was a joke. And it's happened with the math metal, all
Well,
that.
a little bit of everything. And you've got, almost every style of music has that, right? Where it's this big abundance and it takes a little bit to flesh out, but then you've got the really good, people of that genre that hold on and stick with it. Like even looking back in the fucking 80s, there was probably so many damn thrash bands that came out around the time of, Metallica, Slayer, Anthrax, Megadeth, Testament.
Because they were overshadowed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Heard about a band the other day. That's funny you mentioned that because I heard this band. I guess it had to have been around the same time or right after, but a band called Whiplash, actually called Whiplash. And I was
Yeah.
like, is this like a Metallica rip thing? And no, it was thrash. They were doing their own thing. It was badass, man. And I've been recently finding out because I've gotten back into the older thrash again. And I was like, wow, all the bands that I thought were cool were really just like, they were just the guys that had made it. There was like so many others like trickled under it, and I always thought like, oh, it was only like Megadeth, Testament, Exodus, Anthrax, shit like that. No, man, there was like a lot of bands doing it, and yeah, it's cool because it's almost like like a new album's coming out, but not. I'm finding other
You're
stuff
just
that's
finding it. Well, that, you know, that's the good thing about music is there is so much of it. Like every day. That's what I like about Spotify is I'll be like, oh, I want to listen to this artist, and I'll put it on, and I'll just let it go for a while, and I'm like, oh shit, I've never heard that band before. You know, turns you on to a lot of really good shit. Like I've been listening to a lot of Doom lately, and like psych, like desert kind of stoner shit. And I found this band out of Belgium called Fire Down Below. Holy fuck, dude. So good. So fucking good. And I'm like, I even today, I can't get enough of it. I listen to that album, but like their last album every fucking day. Like I have to.
Yeah, I mean, like it's crazy. Doom, like I went down a little Doom rabbit hole over the summer, and I've got a friend that is like crazy into Doom. Like, would just like, I mean, it's amazing just the records bought, you know.
Yeah.
But kind of just chilling and like catching things out of the corner. Not noticing the records are just being flipped constantly the whole time I'm hanging out. And I've got turned on to so much new stuff. Like it's a Grails album I heard. Which I've heard Grails before, but not is it Nails? I think it might be
Nails.
Nails album I heard over the summer, and it like completely blew my mind. It was very simple. I mean, it's good, simple, just dark doom. But like, anyway, either way, what I'm getting at is like I probably heard over the summer like 15 new doom things I never knew existed that are just amazing from all over the world. And it's gotten really good because back when I kind of got out of listening to doom, we were real hard into Moot and stuff, and bands like that, and like the Yob and Moot and a few other things were really the only doom, the good doom that was like out there at the
Yeah.
moment. Doom, everybody's got their own kind of form of it. I want stuff that like wrist cutter doom,
I want that suicidal shit, motherfucker.
flow that I got to check and make sure I put it on the right speed on the turntable.
Yeah. God, funny. I love those fucking albums. I put one on the other day. I don't even remember what it was, but I was like, I don't know that this sounds right. I'm like, oh shit, it's too fast.
Oh yeah, exactly. Hey, there's an Ohlm album. They were a band local for a little bit around here, and I loved them. They were one of my favorite bands. And they wrote some fast, like dark, punky-ish, hardcore type stuff, like doomy at times. But man, they put out like a 10-inch or something, I guess, and it sounded to me. I'd listen to it on the slower setting. I liked it just as good. There's some bands like that. I mean, Mouth
Yeah.
of the Ark, one that I put on like that, like a band from Columbus. They've got an album called Quietly, and up until the second song, you wouldn't notice if you had it, down. If you had it on 30 or 33 or whatever. It's I love that. That's doom, to me. When's he gonna hit the snare? It's been like forever.
Yeah.
He's just right.
So funny. There's so many fucking good bands out there though.
There's a ton like that. There's an access to a Spotify too has made it. Spotify is amazing. I am hooked on Spotify. It's opened up so many doors with bands for me too, just by
Yeah.
doing like putting it on a list or anything being suggested. It's very interactive. I like it. I love it.
I love that you guys are on Spotify. It's like it makes the day a lot easier. I used to hate to fumble with fucking Bandcamp and listen.
Yeah, I mean, I still think Bandcamp is good for things.
Mhm.
I like social media stuff or media stuff in any kind of way is almost lost on me. Like I told you, it's like I've never even been on Zoom before. Uh, but to me, like there's so much stuff now. Like I just don't see how Facebook and stuff like that is really doing any good when there's things like Spotify and YouTube. Bandcamp kind of has certain things it's good for, album sales and stuff like that for digital, like because all of your download cards, if you're putting out like maybe a CD or a vinyl, you can really go through that. It helps you kind of watch your stats and stuff. It's good for bands, like working as bands, but for a
Mhm.
player, for a listener, Spotify, you can't touch it, man. Anything. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Every band there. I like the way they watch it. It's not like, I don't know if you remember the days of MySpace when anybody could just get on there and record anything. It's filtered out. Spotify's filtered out pretty good. You're not going through a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
And And I'm glad we're on there too. I hate to say it, but I nerd out and look like every so often, but man, how many listeners we up to? And
Right. Well,
but
you kind of have to, right? And I think all the different things have, have what works for them, right? Like Facebook is good for certain things. Instagram has its good things, right? Spotify, like it's an abundance of fucking music, and you're just like, I could you could literally hit play on there and probably listen for the next 30 fucking years and never hear the same song.
how long would it go if you just hit play and let it go? You know,
Yeah.
from your liked bands when you get on there. I mean, it's a neat thing. I've been a big fan of it for a while. I was really hyped when we got on there actually, and now we have an official YouTube channel as well, which is cool. I mean, we're trying to get content on that. We did some filming while we were in the studio here recently. We put a couple little clips and stuff on Facebook as well. See, like to me, like that's what Facebook's good for. Put some
Yeah.
little kind of maybe get you. I mean, it sounds weird. It's almost like you're on an OnlyFans page, man. You're trying to do the network thing, but I mean that's how it is. Get on there, give them teasers. Hopefully put out a video here soon on YouTube or something. Get people to come out there and hit that. And I mean, I am personally, to be honest, it sucks because you're always having to hit a like on something. It seems like. And I remember the days when if you had a website, you were just like, oh man, we're the shit. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, I know, but it's because we're old. You know what I mean? Like
that
you
old thing.
you also remember the day where there was no fucking internet, there weren't cell phones and that shit.
Who was it that said something? There was. Well, I mean, I've got kid. I got grandkid. But somebody was telling me something about their kid the other day, saying something about dial up to them, and they looked at them like they had just spoke French, and it was
Mhm.
just like dial up. You don't know, and try to explain what dial up was to them, and they didn't even know what the fuck a phone was with cables on it.
Right.
Like a line. So like he was like, I just stopped. He's like, my kid couldn't fat. I was like, that's so fucked up to think like that. But I mean,
Well, it's fucked up to us, but we grew up with it, and these kids are growing up in a completely different world. Like 90% of the people don't even have home phones anymore. Everyone's just got cell phones.
yeah, landlines are very rare. I've got one. I I've seen one at a place that I work at down the road. There's a landline, and it's still even to me like it's odd. Yeah, but that's a business, and I can see that. But there's a lot of businesses even now. I think don't even have a landline or a way to really even reach them. It seems like through a phone.
Right.
Uh, Food places, stuff like that. I've seen here recently where everything's online. Like hell, even when you walk in, the menu's not there. It's on a little, stamp out thing where you read your phone over it and pull the menu up. And
Yeah.
it's really like, but I mean, yeah, you know what I mean.
Yep. Yeah. It's weird getting old, watching watching all this shit change.
Technology itself is so crazy. Like having an interview like this. I mean, you got to think, like, this is Star Trek shit. Honestly, I
But
mean,
yeah, well, when we were kids, that's it. This is exactly what it was. Like there was no fucking video chat. Like, just shows with Ohlm. When you guys played with the Atlas Moth and the Ocean, that was a great fucking show. And my favorite part is a couple of the dudes from the Ocean came out. I'm fucking watching you, and they come out and they stand right next to me, and they fucking look at me, and they were just like, "Wow." Like, fuck yeah.
almost I love the Ocean. I didn't know. I mean, we talked to them afterwards, and they were wanting us to do these dates with them, and it's hard because a lot of us have jobs. I mean, honestly, that pay us better than it would to go out and be on the road and do shows. Because there's not a lot of money in making music in that kind of that scene of things. I guess is a good way to put it. Atlas Moth would do decent at it and stuff and everything, I'm sure. But as far as us being like an opener band for them, it wouldn't have worked out for us financially. So we didn't get to, but man, yeah, like the day they were, I mean, I thought they kind of dug us, it seemed cool to see them walk out and everything, like you said, but I didn't know. I was like, I wanted to be heavy that night. I kept my shit cool though that night, so I remember it. But yeah, I want to say every now and then we'll play with bands like that and we know we got to put it on. And I kind of like straighten my ass up a little
Yeah.
bit.
Well, and those dudes, so I think one of the things for the Ocean that works out well is they not only have the band, which is the collective, they've also got the record label, which really helps supplement a lot of that income.
I mean, we've never really, we talk about this every now and then it'll come up. I want to say maybe once or twice, seriously, we've had the conversation of, what we would do or how to approach even being like that with it. And all of us are pretty happy with where things are, especially now things are starting. It's crazy because things are starting to pick up more now from what I've noticed than they ever have been. And we never did that. We have here recently just started talking to anybody about like maybe even doing that. Like we have seriously started getting to that point with it. But I mean, like that's the thing is you got to have somebody supporting you and kind of financing like that. Uh,
Or you've
it's
got to figure out how to make it work, right? Like that's where where a lot of bands are today. They diversify, right? They do things. They're looking at any sponsorship they can get. Like the Ocean has the record label, Pelagic Records, right? Which the the way they do the label is fucking amazing because everything's like limited run and it's like a super cool variant. So when they put out an album and there's 12 variants, their fan base buys all 12 fucking variants.
I've seen them do it too. I mean, I won't lie. I've got a couple different things. I got a couple of Val records that are different art and everything, different releases. I mean, and if that's your like favorite band, you don't give a shit. You're gonna
Right.
buy it. I would too. I mean, and I encourage that. I've got like two or three different versions of Palma records too. Those bands tend to do that a lot, which I think is cool. Is they give you something a little more when it comes to the whole physical aspect of getting their album, their recordings, and
Yeah.
that's cool. I think it's actually neat that on that note that there are some things physically coming back. As much as I do love Spotify, I do miss the days of having a physical copy of something. I mean, hell, here lately, I've even had CDs in my car and been listening to them because I actually have a car with the CD player in it still. And it's kind of cool. It's taken me back. And I heard that tapes and vinyl are like killing every kind of form of
Well,
media. And I think, you
so
know,
tapes are on the rise, and
uh,
I'm like, okay, vinyl has for probably 6 or 7 years has outsold CDs just every year consistently. And
I mean,
you
that's
know,
cool. I love vinyl. I've got a shit ton of it in the other room. And I got
fuck me too.
actually, I'm in my, I got a small recording studio. This used to be some kind of little walk-in lawyer's office thing, and I turned it into this. It's part of the house, so I'm kind of stuffed in here. But I've got a collection of tapes even in there, and I was like, man, tapes are coming back because basically my tape deck started acting funny. I took it in, and I was like, well, is it even worth doing anything with it? The guy, and he was like, well, tapes are starting to make a big rise again. I don't know if that's a thing too. And I'm like, no shit. And like, he was like the second person I'd heard that. And then I started hearing it like on, online and stuff. It'd come up to my feed because, I'd been listening to me have conversations with people because that's what phones. But yeah, man. And actually, we had been talking to a guy right now who's working with some bands locally. And he had just
Reagan.
mentioned, yeah, about doing about doing a cassette release of our next album as
Oh
well as
shit.
yeah. So which yeah, I was like, fuck yeah, man, I'm all about it. The
Yeah,
Stone
he's
Cut got recently sounded great. The layout was amazing. It's
yeah, and
this.
he did that Bat Wizard single. He's got Crop coming out. He's the Weaving Spiders with Steve Kurtzinger. I think
God, it's so glad to see. I mean, Steve, man, he's the shit. We were talking about Steve the other day. Steve has the like fucking black Midas touch for heavy metal. Like he only comes around every now and then, but like he'll put like something two singles or some shit out, and you're like, God damn, that was heavy. And
yeah.
then it's like, no. But I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, but anyways, yeah. He seems like he's getting all of us. I mean, we're all friends and we're all interconnected. I mean, hell, the crop guys and all of us just got a strain of weed through it.
From the CD dude.
That was pretty cool, man. I was like, hell yeah, man. Which I mean, I thought that was neat. And Crop Guys are pretty awesome, actually. We're supposed to be playing a show with them in October. I think that's the show.
Oh shit, that's cool. I just saw them last weekend. Actually, when you guys were in Lexington, I was at the crop show with Restless Spirit and Temple of Fuzzwitch and Fairy Ring.
Oh, yeah? Where was that at?
That was at Portal.
Oh, yeah, because our buddies in Storm Tucker were playing over at Mag Bar. And that was like weird because we showed up at like Green Lantern. I'm like, it's so odd they're playing our town
Yeah.
and their town. I was just like, it's like because Andrew from Storm Tuckers. Well, we're real good friends with Storm Tucker. I don't know if you've noticed. We've done a couple of like
Hmm.
little weekends with them, which are always fun. The thing we call the Moose Pussy Express tour. Uh, but those guys have become good friends with us, and he actually hit me up that day, and I'm packing my gear up, getting ready to head to Lexington, and he's like, "Yeah, man, we're playing Magnite, by the way. If you pretty much like if I ain't doing anything, I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm playing at Green Lantern. I'm about to leave right now." And he's like, "Oh shit," and I was like, "Guess it's just how it is, man. One of those things." I mean, but I was just like, if we could have combined those shows, just been amazing, and but, we play.
Well, and the good, I think the good thing about like now, all the fucking shows we have to choose from.
Oh, dude, it's like everywhere, and it's been good. Like every time I see a flyer, I'm like, "Damn, that's a good lineup. Damn, it's a good." We always do this thing. I mean, where you're in a band and you're like, "I don't want to fucking play any shows for a little while, right?" And then someone hits you up, and it's like this lineup. Like, fuck, man. I mean, that's a killer lineup. That's on a Saturday. It's going to be the shit, and we end up jumping on it. And that's what happens with Ohlm is we mean to take breaks because we've been known to like kind of like disappear for a little bit, and
Mhm.
we've do that here lately and try to get some work done doing like album stuff and anything else. But man, there's been so many killer just lineups offered. There's so many good bands right now too. Like, I mean, not saying there aren't always, but like right now, it's like every band. You got Blind Scryer, Crop's a great band. Prayerline kicks ass. Redivider's awesome. I mean, I just went and saw Sadistic Creator, I think was their
Oh,
name.
dude, how fucking killer are they?
Shit, like I mean, like, and it that gave it warmed my heart because they're all probably 20 years younger than me
Yeah.
or to it, but it was just I love that that kind of metal, that old school kind of death metal, real deal shit. Like they had it, man. They were doing good and good bands going around. And
Yeah, I saw them at the Bat Wizard Stonecutters fucking
yep,
release, and I was just like holy fuck, dude. Like, all right, these guys are fucking good. So there's a band from Wisconsin, Illusion of Fate. They're doing a album release thing and they're playing at Magbar. And guys are like, "Hey, do you know anyone?" I'm like, I gave them a fucking list of bands, like hit these bands up. Sadistic Creator was on there, and they're like, "Cool, we got them." I'm like, "All right, good. They're fucking great, dude."
yeah, man, they're killer. They had a killer show the other night. It's cool to see. Like, oh, I haven't seen it often. Whenever we do Chigger shows at Metal Monday, they get a little rowdy up there. But the kids were getting rowdy when they played the other night, and like bashing. Like, it sucked for the. There was a band there from out of town. Self God was there from out of town, and I didn't get to check them out. But they had their merch table set up to the left, and every time like Sadistic Creator would just kick in something crazy and heavy, like they were just fucking thrashing through it. Me and Omer and Jace from fucking Stonecutters is just sitting there like he kept setting it back up. And I'm like, man, it's just they're gonna do it again, like it's cool, man. Like the kids were up there, and they were all you could tell like a younger crowd. They were just thrashing, enjoying it, moshing, having a great time. It was cool to see that.
Hell yeah. Yeah, it's really nice to see the younger generation get out there and do that shit. Like my daughter now is going to shows with her boyfriend and like breaking out, doing their thing. And someone asked me the other day, like, how do you feel about that? I'm like, oh dude, I love it. Cause like she was raised doing this, right?
Yeah,
Like we go to a fucking show. She knows like if there's a problem, she knows who to fucking go to. She knows where to stand, like what to look out for. Like I want her to go and have fun. She did. We went to Louder Than Life last year, and her and her boyfriend ran off. And I turned to my wife, and I'm like, it feels good to for them to run off and not to be like, oh my God, where'd they go? What are they doing? Like, fuck no, go watch some bands, have a good time. You know what
yeah.
the hell is going on.
Oh, it's safe. I mean, I go to like almost. I've been to just about every Louder Than Life. Every time I try to say I'm not going to go, they announce the lineup, and there's at least a few bands there I want to see. And of course, this year, they got
Fucking
Slayer coming up.
Slayer.
And to me, like it seems like a pretty safe place to be. I've been going to shows for a long time. Uh, I mean, I've been there on a few occasions. Whoa, I've been there on a few occasions.
Your fucking poster fell.
Uh oh. I don't know how that happened, but yeah. Anyway, I've been there, and it's I've seen a few people that have been getting like a little dehydrated or something like that, or anything like that, and they've been, someone stop and help them and stuff like that. And to me, I think a lot of times that's all I really see. I've not heard anything bad about anybody getting drugged or any shit like that. It sounds like it's been a pretty positive place for the most part, and I've had a great time every time I've went.
Yeah, it's
Last,
it's getting a little more crowded than I really care, but
yeah, I mean, that's my thing. Is like I start looking at the lineup, and the other day I was just like, I've seen this night, I've seen blah blah blah, and all this. So basically it boils down to Judas Priest and Slayer for me.
yeah.
I mean, I'll deal with it, and
Well, Hemorrhage is playing Saturday, which is they're that band out of California that like the last tour they did, they've got a fucking bus. They went on the bus, they pulled up outside of shows and they fucking play their set as people are leaving the show. Then they pack their shit up and they fucking move.
that's pretty awesome, actually. I like that.
Yeah.
It's like,
Oh, dude, they're like,
you know,
yeah, it's what did he call? I call it bandit shows, but I think he calls it renegade rock or something. And it's just fucking awesome because they're like talking to him, I said, how do you afford to do it? He goes, well, they actually make pretty good fucking money. Like
mm,
they sell merch. I said, so what do you make? He said a slow night like $400, a good night probably 14 or 1500.
that's not bad. I mean, I wouldn't laugh at it, but I can live pretty meager on it as long as I'm playing music and doing something with it.
Yeah.
I mean, and if the band like they do, I mean, something like that is very feasible. I mean, are you talking like, you got to think about that. Well, how does it break down per person? Like, if I could walk up
Three guys
three guys,
and they make their own merch.
I mean that's genius. I mean, try to stay in it as much as you can is the best way to do it. I watched a couple of guys that are like kind of going up big now, or have been big. I mean, well, shit. I mean, we've been going to see Mastodon for like ever, like, and
Yeah.
they're still fans. So I mean, there's a point now like where our whole camp, there'll be a crew of us going to see them in the show. They know who we are. They know Omer knows a few of the guys in the band as well, and you know, those dudes started from Atlanta, Georgia, or wherever they are, and culminating to become Mastodon. I think of Atlanta, and really did it themselves.
Mhm.
They were doing like that. They were in charge of their own merch, doing this and that, and they didn't give up on that for years. Like they were still putting out good albums on Relapse and stuff before Warner Brothers got a hold of them, and they made them work for it. And they weren't about ready to, like they were going to be in charge of their shit, and that's beautiful. They worked hard for it, and it can be done. If you put your mind to it. But I mean, man, that's a it, man. People don't understand what it takes to be in a band. This isn't some Britney Spears shit where you're going to be,
Well, and but that's what it takes, right? Like I was talking with Jimmy Bauer, and the way I Hate God does it now is, he said that they got burned by, was it Century Media or someone?
a lot
Um,
of
yeah, he said so now they fucking pay for all their recording and all of that shit, and then they license it to a label. That way they hold complete control. They know all the merch that's going on. They know literally everything, and all the publishing comes back to them, which is where I think a lot of bands really fuck up is on those contracts. They're selling away their publishing rights or signing away their publishing rights to the fucking label. And like, fuck that, dude. That's a
I mean,
fucking
that's another part of like being like on something and signing anything that worries me too. As much work as we put into doing all this, and we've done it a long time. We're all happy with where we're at it. But I mean, like even like Jimmy's been doing it for years. I got a hilarious story about Jimmy. But yeah, I Hate God's been doing like some pretty cool self shit DIY for a long time and proving that you can do it and
Mhm.
going open bands like Pantera and shit. Because when I first seen them, they opened up for White Zombie. It was I Hate God, White Zombie, and actually Pantera during the Great
Pantera. Yeah.
Louisville Gardens. And man, I mean, you could just tell, you can feel it in their music too. But I mean, I did stage one night for Jimmy, and a couple times I've been around Jimmy when he's done stuff with Down. And their last night of being on the tour one time into the headliners, and we were doing stage management with them that night. And Pepper Keenan and me I was with him all day doing guitar stuff. And their whole thing at the end of tour is they have to literally just prank the fuck out of each other all day long. It's like insane, dude, the shit that's going on. Jimmy snare drum and me and Pepper sat there and like undid the hoops on it and on the bottom of it, and they put like a whole container of ping pong balls inside of the motherfucker. And then like right when he does the first song, the snare there, like that's what he's hitting. They got a spare snare on the side because we're like, it takes him a minute to figure it. And he says every time he hits it, what the hell's going on? But yeah, like the whole night, I mean, it was just shit all night, on stage, off stage. It didn't matter. Like those were some really cool guys. But yeah.
I'm
Anyway,
actually really fucking stoked. We're gonna do the Headbangers Boat this year, and it's Corrosion and Conformity, I Hate God, Napalm Death. I'm just like, oh.
that's awesome. I'm so fucking terrified of being out at sea that like I would have. I mean, like y'all would have to fucking have a helicopter come in and fly me, and even then I'd be freaking out leaving. I'm like so weird about the ocean. It's odd, and it sucks because like all of the cruises have some of the best fucking like combinations of bands or like grouping of bands. Like that
Yeah.
whole line is fucking awesome. Like every band is great. I'd want to see them, but you throw in the fact that it's on a cruise ship. I mean, they do it with the '80s stuff all the time, and they'll get like 4 or 5 bands that I didn't even know still did shows and get them done. I'm like, oh man, why do we got to go in the ocean?
Yeah. I know it's fucking wild. I've never done a cruise, and my wife keeps saying you got to do a cruise. Well, this came out, and a good friend of mine was like, "Hey, dude, I'm gonna go," and I was like, "Cool, I'm gonna fucking go too." He said, "Really?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah, let's share a room." So like, my wife and I, and then him and his girlfriend all sharing a room, and I'm so fucking stoked to, God, to
Get
see.
Dramamine. Buy a shit ton of Dramamine before you get on the boat because
I'll
if
be
they run,
fine.
be a miserable dude. That's what I heard.
I grew up on the water.
Then yeah,
Yeah.
I Richie from Ohlm and Joe Grudge and Cooper from Joe Grudge, a singer. They went on a cruise together once. And I can't remember where they went, but like they were talking to me about it. And like even then, I had I was ambivalent about wanting to be on a boat or anything like that. And they're like, oh yeah, you want to go? I'm like, fuck you, I ain't going on that motherfucker. And I kept telling them like, man, this is crazy, whatever, have fun, whatever. And they come back, and I'm just like, so how was the trip? And they're just like, well, hurricane hit about midway through a trip or something like that. And like it was called Hurricane Nate, and I was like, and they said, oh, and all the Dramamine in the boat got bought out. So motherfuckers was puking everywhere on these gigantic waves, as it was. I was like, see, I was like, that's exactly why I don't get on that shit.
That's fucking hilarious. I would really like, I don't care. Whatever happens, fucking happens. But we're talking like, I didn't tell you Death Clock is on there too, which is
Dude, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm going to see them the 12th, it says on the calendar.
where
I'm
they
going
at.
playing Cincinnati. I can't remember what some place, the amphitheater outside or some shit like that.
Okay.
Dragon Force.
All
So
right.
man, Death Clock's one of my favorite bands. They have been for a while. Dragon Force, they're cool. I think that's a cool little bonus maybe, but I've thought Death Clock was probably one of the best death metal bands for years.
Oh, just phenomenal. And it can't, started as a cartoon. Like when I saw him at Louder Than Life, it was my first time, and I was like, holy fuck. I think who'd they have? I think they had Pete Weber on bass, and then of course Gene on fucking drums.
Saying Death is like God to me. So like his drum style, he can just start playing. I'm like, if it ain't him, I'm like it's someone clowning him bad. Like it's just I love Gene Hoglan. He's the best death metal drummer in my opinion.
I think in
But
a
yeah,
lot of people's opinion, there's a reason they call him the fucking atomic clock.
nuts, man. I mean, every band. I mean, Individual Thought Patterns is a big influence on me, and I love all the Death Clock stuff. Pretty much anything he's done. Strapping Young Lad is the shit. Devin Townsend's amazing within himself, but just I remember the first time I heard Individual Thought Patterns. I love Death. I like a lot of eras of Death, but John Reinhardt, like two of the most baddest drummers in death metal. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, that was, and Death is one of those fucking bands that the way they, the way that the songs were structured, it was just so fucking different from everyone else, and it changed just enough with each album that you still wanted to go along for the ride and you weren't afraid.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Well, it made you think, and like his stuff was really like he was a true, like when you hear people say progressive musicians, which we get, I consider what we do progressive, and a lot of other people do as well. I try to take a progressive approach at it, but a lot of it is because of him, and he is definitely a progressive musician. Where the albums, it's been metal, he's gonna play metal albums, and it's gonna be heavy and edgy, and but he has morphed, going from the musicians, which I think that's a part of it too. And it's probably part of just being probably tough to work with because a lot of those guys. I mean, I know I'm kind of difficult to work with playing music too. It's probably like got a lot to do with why there's just us three, and it stayed that way. But
Well, a lot of people they want to find that groove, and when they do, it ends up being the same thing, copy and paste over and over, and fuck that gets to be too much. Like, I dig Lamb of God. I like that every album sounded a little bit different, but these last couple are the same thing.
yeah, I mean, I love the first two Lamb of Gods. I mean, they're fucking badass, and they have done some things here. And I tell everybody this. I'm like, I go and see a lot of bands and they'll be opening for them or something. Or as a Lamb of God, I'm like, dude, I'm like, even if I don't listen to their album, I'm like, every time I've seen them in concert, they have fucking killed it. So
Absolutely.
I appreciate that about any band. Like, I may not be into them anymore, but if I go and see them and they're opening for a band, that I'm really there to see or something like that, and they kill it, I still give them fucking props, man. And those guys have killed it. I saw them open up for Slayer in Nashville about 7 years ago. Maybe a little longer than that, six,
Was
7 years
that
ago.
was that with Amon Amarth and Cannibal Corpse?
No, it was just Slayer and Lamb of God, and Slayer had did two sets. It was during their anniversary type thing where they were playing like almost 2 hours or something like that, and I can't remember. But those were the only two bands. But Lamb of
Wow.
God named them like every song. Like I sat right next to the dude that I was there with. I was like, "Here's what they're gonna start with. Here's what they're gonna do next. Here's what they're gonna do. Here's what's coming up next. I don't like the song. We'll get a beer." Like, and they delivered like every time. They knew how to like pick their set and fucking hit you with it.
Yeah.
Become really, really solid at it. And, they're not exactly, to me, like they're not exactly a progressive band, but when it comes to playing like metal the way they're very technical and it's very mechanical. And
Yeah.
they do got a really cool groove, especially those first two albums. Really, like every time they play Laid to Rest, it's the first song they play every time that I've seen them just about. And I'm just like, yeah, like it's a badass song.
Well, and they do it right. Like they have a very unique style and a very unique sound. So when it comes on, you're like, oh, it doesn't matter. You could just be walking by and like, oh, that's fucking Lamb of God, like every time. And you're right. Like
Yep.
I I don't buy the albums now.
Yeah.
I have I think I have most of them over there, but I'll go see them live and I won't I like they're fucking headlining Headbangers Boat. Hell yeah, I'm gonna be there to see it because they fucking crush live. I saw them. God, I don't even know. I've probably seen them 10 or 12 times now, and it's every time it's fucking a great show.
Great show. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of bands like that still that I'll go and see, and that I don't mind watching and sitting through so much stuff. I don't like everything that. I mean, that's the thing is like bands change. I think a lot of people get. I mean, is it critical or cynical? I don't understand exactly how to put it, but like, as far as like on bands, when bands try to do something a little different, try to change. Like Fear Factory is a good example, I think, because I'll dig that back out. I love Fear Factory. A lot of people in our whole camp, man, are big fucking Fear Factory fans. And when they, I mean, when they did obsolete, that was like a game changer. And to me, I would like, a lot. Corn had been a big thing, shit like that back then was kind of taken over and all that. And I got to see a lot of bands kind of like not conform, but they had to evolve a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Oh, obsolete. And I was like, yeah, fuck new metal. I was just like, this shit's cool, man. I was like, it's got a hip, cool groove thing going on to it, but it's just so blast in your face and shit. And a lot of people were hating on them for that. And a lot of people hated on Sepultura for it. And if Roots Bloody Roots is one of the baddest fucking albums ever. But to me, I think that album is the birth of new metal. And there's a lot of people that agree with me on it.
Hmm.
Like really to me. I mean, I don't consider the very first Corn album a new metal album. To me, it sounds like a fucking sludge doom album. Like I mean, it really does, you
Yeah.
know.
Well,
But
and if we look back and it's so fucking muddy, like where all that shit comes from, because there was again so many fucking bands doing so many different things. Like I don't know, everyone's got their thing. I got this, just speaking of like Dino and Fear Factory, when he was with Soulfly at fucking, where is he was at Diamonds.
oh yeah, is
His
it wait him playing with them? Is that what you're talking
Yeah,
about? Yeah. Man, have you heard the new Soulfly album?
no,
It's in. Dude, they've been putting out like we
hold
get on
on.
this
There, when did this album come out?
newer album. It's had to come out in the last year. I want to say. I mean,
No,
it's fairly new, maybe. I want to say.
pro a year, maybe 2 years. Yeah, they're working on another album now.
I just recently. Well, see, here's the thing: is like we'll lose track with them every now and then we tip back on here and there, right?
Yep.
And about a week ago, we got kind of to where we're talking about it again. We're like, well, let's see what the hell they've been doing lately, and that must be it. Like the one they did a couple years back. Dude, it's bad as fuck. I mean, like, I was like, this is the shit. Because you don't expect it. But we had heard like about 10 years ago, maybe they did a black metalish sounding album, something like that. Maybe not just 10 years, but I mean, we listened to it and I can't remember what the name of it is. I ended up listening to it a little bit last week and I was just like, dude, it's crazy to think this is Soulfly, you know? And it
Yeah,
was
but
bad.
Max
Man.
is like, I like what Max does. He surrounds himself with really good fucking musicians and then they write something. Like this next album, they're really trying to go back to like the super groove of like the early Soulfly shit.
First album was the shit with Logan Mader playing guitar from Machine Head. And like, man, that album, fuck, dude. Well, we seen him on tour, and that's who was playing guitar with him at the time. And that dude, he was one of my favorite guitar players back then. But I mean, like, we saw him a couple times on that, and they were out on the road with System of a Down and Incubus and Snot when they were nobodies. They were just trying to fucking. And I guess since Max had clout, they're like, all right, we're gonna send you out. And he's basically gonna be the headliner band, and you guys are gonna be doing off fest dates from Ozfest. And we seen it a couple times, and just the shit. Soulfly was amazing. Uh, my favorite, my favorite death metal album of all times is Sepultura Chaos AD.
Okay.
And the first death metal album I ever heard was Arise. I remember it as it's just like as if I was watching a video. I remember the day walking into the house when the dude that told me, and I was just sitting there chilling. He's like, "Hey, listen to this shit. This is some new stuff called death metal. You need to check this shit out. We haven't gotten me and you ain't been hit to this yet, you know." Because living in Eastern Kentucky, you kind of catch on to things like a little later than you
Yeah.
would up here. So he showed me Arise, and I was just like, "What the fuck?" So like, I had lived in Clarksville, Indiana at the time, and was visiting in Eastern Kentucky when someone actually turned me on to this. If I'm being clear about it, and I went right back to River Falls Mall and bought it and Testament, Souls of Black,
Mm.
and like both of those albums completely changed my. I was playing guitar. I'd probably been playing guitar for about 2 years at that time or something like that, and they just changed my whole outlook. I quit the band I was in. I was in like some little teenage band that did a couple covers here and there, and had a few originals and stuff. And we'd play some like garage or little like rec center shows.
Yeah.
I I quit. I was just like, I'm done with this shit. I was like, I want to play music like this. I was like, I know I can play music like this. And basically, I'm not being a dick by saying it. I mean, we were all young, but I was like, I knew those guys didn't have the ability to do it. And Josh, who is in Ohlm right now, like me and him were friends. A few years later, we ended up hooking up, and I met him through some of those same guys that I didn't like to play music with back then. And like I was hanging out with them again. They were just like, "Oh yeah, these guys are coming over, Josh and blah blah blah." He's like, "Well, they're still doing the death metal thing," and I was like, "Oh really?" Because that's what I want to fucking be doing. And we started playing death metal. We started Callous.
All right.
Sorry about that, but
Now you
see, that's the thing is me and Stone and Stone's in Joe Grudge. He's the other guitar player. Me and Stone and Richie have been playing like death metal style like that forever, like since the mid to late '90s. And it's kind of cool because it seems like a lot of bands are bringing it back these days.
it kind of all goes in it goes in waves.
A circle, man. I'm like Sadistic Creator. When I seen them, that's all I thought about. I was like, God, that reminds me of the old death metal days when it was just like extreme, extreme guitar solo, extreme fucking
Yeah.
mosh riff. And I was like, is it? I was like, it's a simple formula that just really gets the fucking point across, you know?
Well, it does. It's real fucking in your face. Like, let's just do it. And I think everyone I talked to after the show with, you know, after the Stone Wizard show, um, man, everyone was like, man, they were so fucking good.
And I mean, hey, to me, are you talking about Stone Wizard or Stone Cutters?
Stonecutters Bat Wizard when they did
Oh
that.
yeah, okay. You said Stone Wizard. I'm like, hey, I like that kind of.
Yeah.
I was like, is that taken?
Well, that was
Uh,
the name of the 7-inch was the Stone
yeah,
Wizard.
yeah. Oh, I didn't notice that. See, I bought the tape. I went there and I was like, I'm kind of poor, man. I was like, so I'm just gonna get the tape. So I didn't even get the record yet. But yeah, I mean, dude, that was a damn good show. I missed Sadistic Creator is what happened, and that's why I like the other night at Metal Monday. I was like, man, I was kind of planning on going there. I was bored anyways, and someone was like, well, Sadistic Creators, man. I was like, oh fuck yeah. And I'm kind of glad I got to check them out on that level instead of at Magbar, because I mean, like, it got fucking rowdy. I mean, it was beautiful. I loved it.
That fucking Magbar show was so packed too. Like,
Dude, I know, man. Like, if I hadn't been on the list, I wasn't going to get in. Like, the dude up front was just like, man, we're at capacity. I'm like, I'm on the list. He's like, go on. And thank you, Omer.
yeah,
But yeah.
that's so fucking funny, dude. Cause I was like, I told my daughter, she's like, oh yeah, we're gonna come to the show. And I was like, cool, you guys will come to like one of my shows. We'll have a good time. And I get in the door and it probably wasn't 15 minutes later, they're turning people away. I was like, don't bother coming. You're not getting in.
Man, yeah. It got great. I'll tell you what, that was an all ages show too, right?
Yeah.
That's been going on, and I really dig that. That and the 18 up thing. I like that. I mean, I've never really understood the 21 up thing, to be honest about it in a venue. 18 up, I can understand that. But the all ages thing is really cool. Like, that's one thing you can hook us with every time you throw us a show off, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it's all ages on a fucking weekend." We're like, "Oh fuck yeah," because like, man, kids are going to shows and they're throwing that fuck down here these days,
Yep.
and I love it.
Yeah. We went to where did we go? We went to the Death in the Midwest show at Black Circle in Indy a few weeks ago.
Who was it
And
that?
oh,
Who?
Redivider was there.
Oh shit, yeah. I was talking to Jake the other day, and a little bit back before that show, and they were talking about that.
Yeah, they didn't get to
Yeah.
play.
They what?
They didn't get to play.
Oh shit, what
There
happened?
were eight or 10 fucking bands, and I think there was 8 bands, and we got to like band 5, and someone hit a telephone pole outside. Well, power came back on. They finished their set. One Body, Six Graves took the stage, and Redivider was next. And during One Body, Six Graves, the fucking power just completely shut out. Couldn't do anything.
Yeah. Fuck, that sucks.
Yeah, I was like, fuck, I just wanted to see Redivider. Like,
Man, our buddies in Stonecutter or Stormtucker are playing up there here soon, and trying to feel it out a little bit, see how it is, because we do all those runs together. And I was like, I'd like to play Indianapolis, and everybody says that's the place to play.
yep.
The last time we played Indianapolis, we played a house show. It's a while back, and dude, it was the shit. I mean, it was really cool. I mean, they got a good crowd, some of they dig us, but I mean, I don't think anybody does house shows anymore. So
They do. It's just I think they're a little harder to find because a lot more places are doing more all ages shows. They did that Death in the Midwest was all ages, and there was I don't know, there was probably a handful of little kids like 8 to 10, 8 to 12, something. They were out there in the fucking pit just getting down, having a good time.
see, that's what I'm talking about. We did a headliner show about a year and a half ago, something like that. And it was an all ages show, and there was a bunch of teenagers in the front row just throwing down and headbanging, and it was beautiful, man. I mean, it's good to see kids getting out there enjoying shit like that. I think the one thing about COVID is like enough kids were cooped up that whether they're getting out there and doing more things like they wouldn't
Well,
normally.
and
So,
enough parents are kind of tired of the kids where they're like, I want to go to a show. Like, yep, get the fuck out, go.
yeah, exactly. Because a lot of my friends had come there and brought their kids, and it's like, yeah, go, man, have fun. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
probably a good little release. Like, oh, no, they just show. Now we can go out and like have a good time and just let the kids get in the mosh pit. They'll be all right, you know, and that's kind of cool.
Hell yeah. So, okay. So Ohlm's working on, well, you guys are getting ready to start mixing the new album. Do you
Yeah.
guys have a name for it?
Right now, I think we're going with it. We're going to call it Division.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's a four song. It's actually an album. They call it an EP, I guess. Sometimes we've been confused back and forth on that, but I mean, there's still 45 minutes worth of music or so, or close to that on there. So it's the length of an album. It's just four songs, but they're long. I mean, like, there's maybe one 7 minute long song on there, and the rest of them are like clocking 10 to 12. So
Hell yeah.
we got that. Hopefully be getting into the next few months to get it mixed before the new year when I have it out, be doing like some kind of release show or something is hopefully where it goes. As far as pressing vinyl, from last I heard, it's like a 9 month turnaround. So it'll be a minute before that. So I'm sure we'll do like a drop before then, more like digital, when we release on Spotify and all that shit and everything, put out a CD.
Well, and I think with vinyl, like Reagan and I have been talking, I think there's a lot of vinyl manufacturers that can get it turned around quick. Like the Crop album, I uh I think he just got test pressings for that yesterday.
Oh, nice, nice. Yeah, I mean, that's cool. I mean, hey, as soon as we got a projection, that's happening because we've been playing these songs for a couple of years already.
Yeah.
Not out. We'll tease one out of here and there every now and then, but we've been playing them ourselves for a little bit. We're ready to get them out and kind of move on to the next new thing. We're already working on other shit.
Yeah.
Uh, we've got a split that we're supposed to be doing with Storm Toker as well, and we're working on a song pretty much halfway through on that one. Like,
Is that one also coming out with Third House?
yeah, and yeah, and Joe Grudge is actually, we're about to go in the studio as well. We've got some good stuff. Joe Grudge has been getting a little heavy here lately, and we also did a something for Peril. We did a song for their hot sauce stuff, like a jingle. It's kind of like a spoof of like heavy Van Halen-esque type funny shit in a sense.
Okay.
It's a ripper song. It's a really good song. It's got a good groove to it. But it is kind of funny. And Peril's supposed to be putting out some kind of compilation here soon. So we got a lot of stuff going on. Uh, Joe Grudge has got shows coming. Ohm's chilling, uh, working
What's
on
the
the new
next
stuff.
Joe Grudge show?
Next Joe Grudge show is going to be Metal Monday, April 22nd. And then we got another show right after that, a thing called The Fuzzy Pig on the 26th. I have no fucking clue what Fuzzy Pig is, but it's supposed to be fun. So,
All right. Are you going down to Legalize Lex on the 20th?
man, I want to. I've heard about all the bands playing, and honestly, I don't have anything to do that day, and I'm thinking about it. But I mean, every band almost I'd love to see. So
Yeah, you should absolutely come down to it. I'll be down there. Reagan will be down there.
I heard
Uh,
about it like literally 3 days ago, maybe. I didn't even know about this shit going on. I'm sure they've been advertising forever.
yep.
But
Yeah.
yep, I'd like to go. I've
Def
I've got Yeah, April's pretty wide open except for my last two shows like that month. But uh, they mentioned somebody the other day that like literally hooked me on it. Who is it? That's fucking name a couple of the bands that's playing there.
oh shit. Hold on. So Crop's there, Swamp Hawk, Blessed Black, Howling Giant,
Yep.
She, Blind Scryer,
Might have been
fuck.
might have been because Scryer's playing. Man, we played that show with them recently at Mag, and dude, Scryer is the shit. Uh, I love them so fucking much. One of my favorite fucking bands. Uh, it's a Hawk I've known for a long time. We've known all the guys for a while, but that band, it just amazes me that they haven't got like picked up yet. I mean, they're like this heavy metal Thin Lizzy thing going on and shit, man. It's real cool.
I've
But
got actually got a fucking uh Blind Scryer album when they did that really weird looking vinyl, like the outer space looking shit.
no, hell yeah, I didn't even know they had a vinyl out. See,
Oh
we're
yeah.
we're we're late to the game, man. We've got to get one out. Every time we put an album out, someone's asking about when you go. I'm like, man, that shit's expensive, and it's just one of those things. Now we're at a point where we can do that. I'm pumped about it because I love vinyl.
You could have
So
did it before.
I could have. I mean, we could have. I mean, honestly, we wanted to do it with the Dyatlov album, and because we did it in that studio, and that was the first time we'd worked in like that kind of setting with the band, and it sounded real good and clear. the good broad mix, and just with everything happening like that, of course, obviously everything shut down, and we were lucky to get CDs and
Yeah.
even be able to do some live streams and stuff. And it was just that. And now this is the album after, so we are doing it. It's like a goal has to happen. It was like one of those things we all said, we got to do it. We got to do it this time. So
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. Talking to Reagan's a good buddy of mine, and we talk a lot. He was talking about, he gave me a list of like 15 or 16 bands. He's like, I'm putting shit out from them. I'm like, oh, fucking Ohlm. Yes,
yeah,
dude. It's about fucking
yeah. I mean,
time.
we're pumped. We're pumped. Reagan, I've known Reagan for a long time. Reagan was one of my first friends when I moved up to Louisville, like permanently. I'd been going back and forth between Eastern Kentucky all my life just because, I like it there too. And sometimes I get, a little tired and want to move back there. But like I've been living here since like 2003 or four, like on a permanent basis.
That was like the Bucky's days.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly same shit. But
That's when
yeah,
I
I mean,
fucking met Reagan.
yeah. Yeah. But I met him. We did food prep at a place together. And then we started working at a place called Spinelli's when it first opened up. And it was rough back then. I mean, it was a great place, good food and everything at that point. I mean, I'm talking like, well, 20 years ago, of course, but it was like a little rough. We were young. We ended up being neighbors next to each other. We lived across the street from it. So, man, the stories. But we've both been like, just avid metalheads forever. So when he approached me about it, funny thing is Vic from Bat Wizard, me and Vic go way back too. And he approached me about it. It was about a year ago. He was like, "Y'all ever thought about going through this?" And I was like, "Where does that?" Like that. He said, the name of the company, and I was like, "Where does that sound familiar to me?" And he's like, "I don't know, man." He's like, "This guy's trying to pick everybody up and put out releases and everything." I was like, "Cool, cool." And something happened. I kind of slipped my mind on it. And then about 3 weeks later, Reagan hits me up, and I'm just like, "What the hell have you been up to?" And then he told me, I was like, "Oh fuck, that's you," And I was like, "Oh, totally down, man." Like, I told him, I mean, which he should have known like right then, like we have mutual friends, and even they were we'd been talking. I was like, we kept telling him like, why don't you, do something for Ohlm? And he was like, oh, I don't know. I was like, dude, I would have did it in a fucking heartbeat if I'd known. And I just didn't. But see, I feel safe knowing that it's him because I trust Reagan and I've known
Yeah.
Reagan and I know he's doing it because he loves the music and because he's been like, dude, you got to understand. It was really weird, like back then, 20 years ago, to talk to somebody who could fucking tell you even 5 songs by Bongzilla, Weed Eater, bands like that.
Oh no, I believe it. Like I totally get
And
it.
he
Like
and he was hit,
that's
and
why
I'm like,
fucking Reagan and I like connected also was just music. Like
yeah,
fuck, at that time I was hanging out a lot. When we first met, I was hanging out a lot at Bucky's.
yeah,
Because I lived just like shit, that's when Milo was just born.
yeah.
Holy
God,
fuck.
man, dude, that kid, I seen him at the show. I love you, Milo, but it was just crazy sitting there looking up at him, and it was just like God damn, man. I remember before he was around, but like I lived next door when he was maybe 5, and like he's mellowed a lot. He was a wild kid. He was fun, but yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I go way back with him. And Reagan's always been genuine. Is like the big thing about it is I knew when he approached me about it, I was like, I know his heart's in it.
Yeah.
So I mean, because a lot of guys, would get approached by this and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm getting like a lot of the bands," and they'd be like, "Oh, this guy's about to fucking take us off for a ride or some shit." And he actually gives a fuck about the music. So
100%. He loves fucking he loves the Louisville community, right? And it's I mean shit, he's curated an entire history of fucking Louisville music and vinyl. It's wild.
yeah, I mean, he was around when bands didn't get that too. I mean, and that's what sucks is like there's so many things from so many good bands. Me and him have talked about this on several levels. You got some King Horse stuff and everything like that. And there's a few Pusher albums you can still get. And I mean, even though Pusher's a little more recent, but I mean, like, there's obscure stuff like that out there that's like some of the most pivotal, awesome shit in the scene or whatever you want to call going on around here that like influence people that a lot of people don't know about. Like I think that the Callous album never got like I wasn't even on that one, but the Callous album that come out like maybe I guess like early 2000, right around there, Avarice I think is what it's called, is one of the baddest Louisville death metal albums you'll ever fucking hear, man. And like I think it never got its due. There's a couple bands like that, and I see him picking up on that a little later down the road too. and like putting some stuff like that out because he's that hardcore back into it,
Well, and
man.
I think I think he's working on something to go back and get a lot of the old music that didn't get proper releases and actually,
Yeah,
put that shit out. So
yeah,
I'm
and that's
I'm
cool. I
excited.
mean, that's what I could see him doing that, doing some shit. I mean, like there's a lot of stuff back there that didn't get its due, and he was around for that. And I mean, fuck, it's like even bringing up a name like Bucky's, like you were just saying, I was like, Jesus,
Yeah.
it's like a
Yeah.
long time ago, man. But and there's a lot of club days back then that died. I mean, there were so many killer bands that like came through like places like Cahoots. Cahoots isn't fucking there anymore,
I
man.
know.
I mean,
God.
that's luckily, you've got a lot of the stuff like the Pusher shit and like I'm a Dead Child and all those guys. They got love, which that's another obscure side of like metal that I don't think is still got pushed enough. And he knows about those guys and all. Blade of the Ripper, Brothers of Conquest. I think there was some stuff there that never got
Mhm.
released. Buffalo Bill. I mean, once he taps into that, like he can put out all the shit he wants now. I mean, like with all these bands, he's got plenty of killer bands under his belt right now. But once he starts tapping into, I'm excited to see people's reactions when they get a hold of those albums that they've never been exposed to.
Yeah.
Because, like, I mean, even like for example, I've rode around for the last month listening to a fucking band from Lexington, a CD I found about a month back from a band called Chrome. And I don't know if you ever heard them or not, but
Mm-mm.
dude, I mean, like they put out an album called Cyclone, and then they all just kind of went on to do other things. And I've been listening to that album since I found it, and like it is one of the best fucking death metal albums I've ever heard, like groove oriented death metal.
Yeah.
And you know, people have never heard it except me and the few people that were around when that went on, that were around those days, those club days. And I could definitely see him being how he is. He's crazy historian about the shit.
Yeah.
He's they got some stuff and exposed him to a fucking a whole generation of people that would have never heard of him if it went for him being like just a nut about metal like he is.
He's got he's got some really cool shit in the works.
Yeah,
I'm really excited about some of these fucking releases. I'm
yeah,
like, dude,
yeah. We're excited. I mean, like, fuck. I mean, he's getting a lot. Like, I've had a couple people, my friends, hit me up because here in the last little bit, he's getting on it, and like, just like the whole thing of like, yeah, man, we've been talking. Like, it's really cool to kind of all everybody be like under the same deal, like affiliated like this, and like
well, and
with
you have someone that actually gives a shit and not
yeah,
just
exactly.
there to take a fucking dollar.
Yeah, because I mean, I get the shit. I get the fucking question forever. I'm real good friends with Terry Harper. I mean, I've known him forever. We've played, toured together, done all kinds of shit. And he's asked me on several occasions. He's like, "Just why aren't you guys signed?" And I was like, "We've never tried." I was like, "We've honestly never even talked about it and all this." And I mean, in my heart, not being like conceited about the music or anything, but I love the music enough and think it's good enough that I think we could get signed off of it. I mean, you got to think of the reality. I mean, what is that really giving you? I mean, like
Yeah.
yeah, I'd love for masses to hear my music and shit and everything, but I want to do it the right way. I don't want to do it, sell myself out for that, kill myself out, break up a good fucking band because, it was stressful. And that's what
Well,
happens, you
that's
know?
where a lot of people fuck up, dude. Is like there's some really good bands out there that you're right. Once they get signed to a label, they're like, okay, now we got to go do XYZ, but it
Yeah.
stops being your project and now it's the fucking label's project. And they're like, oh, well, you got to have another album out in 6 months and then you've got to be on the road for another year and a half. And I don't care if you're only making $100 a night, you got to get out and fucking do it. And then at the end, you're getting ready for the next album, and they're like, "You owe us 40 grand or whatever." Still, you're like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, it changes a lot when you're doing it for a living. I mean, that aspect of it is cool, but it definitely becomes a job and it gets really fucking old real quick too. Especially if you're in a situation that you're not exactly 100% comfortable in. Or, I mean, I've been in a few touring acts here and there, like nothing crazy major, but I've been out on the road with guys for enough amount of a time to, everybody be at each other's throats and everything. And then you just sit there and you start thinking, is this fucking worth it? Luckily, me and Dave and Josh, we've been on the road in a few situations together. We do really good. We like what we're doing. We're having fun and everything. And it's our project.
Yeah.
But you get guys doing things like, we're like, oh, this singer's running this shit and blah, 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 and everything like that. It really does become like a job and it gets fucking old dealing with a lot of that stuff and it takes the luster out of it. And I've always, like, my experiences with being on the road with people who have been, mixed. And I think I could do it with these guys. But some of the other projects I've been in and did it, it's just people that weren't ready for it, or people that were way too into
Sure.
their fucking, and that happens a lot when people get in the business. And to me, like, album sales didn't mean that much as to losing my friends in this project. I feel like a really good thing with these guys, and I project a lot of things that we've been through. We've been together almost 14 or 15 years now. We're coming up on our anniversary, and we've been through a lot of stuff personally together that's shaped us as a band. Songs that are personal to us. People know we don't have any lyrics, but our titles mean something in a sense, because it means something that happened during a situation, or it's some stupid analogy of some shit that we've said, or maybe a dream we had or something, and we'll name it what we're writing in that context. Like, it kind of depicts like something we had been talking about at the time when that song was being written. That's how
Yeah.
we name songs and get feelings from songs. And everything's a concept album, which without words, that's hard for people. So you have to do it through art and through titles and through feeling and through movement in the music. And now that we've got a projectionist, that helps a lot too.
Oh yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and just touching on what you were saying earlier, I agree. I think you guys are, I've always looked at you guys as one of the best like local bands that we have. Like your shows are
Thank you.
always entertaining. Um, the crowd absolutely enjoys you. I absolutely enjoy you. Fuck everyone else,
Thank you.
like so I've had that question also, is like I wonder why Ohlm isn't in a different place as a band. I also understand like it's going out there and doing the signing and touring constantly and that shit. It's not for everyone.
Yeah, it's hard. I know what it's like to be expendable person in a band. Cause I did hired gun work when I was young. Nothing any major or anything. I've had my dabbles here and there with enough touring though, and doing it for a living years of it, to where I know the pros and cons of it. And I mean, it's fun. I mean, I don't hate on anybody for it. When you're younger, you don't really have a lot of stuff you got to worry about like that, and you can afford to, just only make a couple $100 a night and live off your per diem or whatever the venue provides for you. It's cool and all that, but as you get older and you really want to like a life and all that, you've got to start thinking about something different. And I don't give a fuck what anybody says, unless you're in like some shit that's like a little more major. There isn't any of the bands that are around here that we're all affiliated with, at least not at the moment, that are going to go out on like say a 7-day banger and every show is going to be packed. That's not fucking happening.
Right.
That's just the reality of it. You're going to take, if you're lucky, you're going to get out of 7 shows, 4 of them are going to be good shows. More than likely, only 3 of them, and the other 4 are probably going to be like on the turnouts and shit and everything. You can't do that in a working project. Keep your morale up, keep your money up, keep your merch sales up, and do that. Like, and you got to think, like I just said earlier on in this conversation, that you're talking about guys that have careers and stuff that are making them good money, getting them bonuses, paying for those fucking badass gear that they play on and shit. And my business, what I do for employment on the side, what I make money at is what funds my gear. Ohm doesn't fund any of my shit. Ohm doesn't fund my gear. Ohm funds albums, and Ohm funds merch. It's like takes care of itself. We
Yeah.
get no money from Ohm, like at all. Like, it's a not paying gig. If anything, we put money in on it, but Ohm pays for itself, luckily, a lot of times.
Yeah. It sucks to have that as a fucking reality as a band, like, but it is what it is,
Yeah.
and part of that, I think part that will help is this fucking vinyl having more
Yeah.
physical shit out for you guys, and knowing that these other amazing musicians look at you guys as a fucking great band too. Like I'd be willing to bet that those dudes in the ocean, that Pelagic Records would fucking put something out from you all.
Yeah, I'd love to get a distribution out. I see. To me, that's what it is, really, more than anything. I mean, I can go and do the shows. We can play the fucking shows. I ain't worried about that, man. Throw them at us. We can do them. You want to go overseas? I do all that shit too. But it's a thing of like, you have to get that distribution, get out there like that, and really get that buzz. I mean, what's it worth if you can't do that? To me, that's always been my goal. First and foremost, is to like put out a good album, get the distribution out there, get the people to hear it, then worry about where you're going to go as far as a longer setting after that.
Yeah.
I think this will help it. It seems like vinyl, man, like has a different vibe to it. People are really catching into it now. I've always thought that. I love vinyl. I've always wanted to do this on vinyl, and I think it'll help a lot. I think distribution would help a lot too as well, which we're hoping, Reagan as well is working on a lot of that. And now, I mean, and it's like I said before, like, it's also a thing of working with somebody that's comfortable, that you're comfortable working with, that you trust, because a lot of people get fucked over, man. I mean, and I'm
Yeah.
not looking to make a fucking paycheck, but I don't want to get rode, And I mean, and I trust this guy. I know this guy. I think it's going to be good. It'll be great. I think there's going to be a lot of bands a lot of people would have never heard about that he's going to push out, and I'm glad to be a part of it. I'm glad we all are. Dave, Josh, everybody's been excited about getting a vinyl out forever, and it's cool to see it.
Hell yeah, it is. Hell fuck yeah, it is.
Yeah, I'm fine.
All right, Nate. I appreciate your time, dude.
Yes, sir.
I think I want to go hang out with my wife for a little bit.
Do your thing, man.
Cool. Have yourself a great night.
You too, man. I
Thanks.
appreciate it.
Hell yeah. I'll
Yeah.
see you, dude.